I think that we might have just gone live. If you can hear me, welcome to the live UX portfolio review. I'll give some time here to let everyone show up because as just like normal meetings, you need people to file into the room. So yeah, hi Abror, hi from Denver. Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, where's everybody calling in from? I am coming in from Austin, Texas, actually. CareerFoundry is based in Berlin, Germany, but I was here for South by Southwest and it got canceled. So I've been here at my brother's house, weathering the storm. I hope that everyone is safe and quarantining themselves. Israel, Berlin, Germany, San Jose. It's like the perfect time right now where we can get people in Europe and people in the States. So people in the States, you're about lunchtime pretty much, but yeah, Europe's off work on their commute from their desk at their office to their couch right now as we speak. Welcome everybody. Yeah, so if you've never used Big Marker, you've got your public chat right here. My network connection is a bit up in the air. It's working now, but if it does go off, we have Ada and Jakob from CareerFoundry. They're standing by. They're here to help me during the webinar. So they may take over if I cut out. But there's also a presentation that I prepared for you. In the presentation, I have some tips on doing UX portfolios. Some of them sort of like standards that you need. Some of them that I would imagine an HR person would want, and something that personally, as a design manager, that I would want. But yeah, just to introduce myself, Jeff Humble, and I'm the head of design at CareerFoundry, and I'm a UX designer. So I've been doing UX design since 2014 or so, kind of transitioned from UI design around then, and done product design as well. So yeah, I'm running the design team at CareerFoundry, which means I get to help design the experience of learning at CareerFoundry. Do a small amount of mentoring, as well as lots of like workshops and talks whenever I can, because I'm super passionate about UX design. So that's what I like to do, and that's my role at CareerFoundry. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started if everyone is in here. We can start with the first slide. I'll just do a quick kickoff here, and then we'll get into the portfolios. So I believe you can post your portfolio in the public chat, and if we have time, we will try and get to it. We've already had a few people that sent their portfolios to us, so we've got some to go through. Some of the early birds will get the worm here because they've already sent it to us. But yeah, let's start with the presentation. So why a portfolio? This is a kind of a complicated pass with UX designers and designers in general and portfolios, because portfolios, they really started as something that artists would use. So an artist would show their best work. They try to showcase their own style as well as the versatility so that they could show like, hey, I've got my style, it's pretty cool, right? But look, I can also do this more corporate style, or I can also, do this sort of grungy thing, or, whatever the looks were at the time. And I think a lot of times this would be an actual artist doing illustrations for magazines. So, a very different world, but that's where this idea started, that you needed to have a portfolio to get a job. It's essentially like a preview of what you can do. It shows off your skills, right? That's the portfolio. And I mentioned that only to talk about that it's changing, right? And this comes from the 60s or so, something like that, right? So these things are changing. Today, if you think about UX designers and just designers in general, the titles and the roles of a designer are changing. And so with the changes of the titles and roles come changes in the portfolio expectations. So, oh wow, seeing lots of portfolios being posted. Thank you so much. We'll try and get to some of these. Yeah, so we're doing UX design portfolios today. In 5 years, maybe that's called something else. Maybe UX design is called something completely different, and maybe there's different portfolio expectations with that. So it can be really difficult to keep track of the expectations for designers and their portfolios. They're not set in stone. And today I'm going to try and talk to you about some of the things that I think about when I look at portfolios. So I've hired UX designers and applied to jobs myself many times. But this is opinion based, some of it, and I'll try and call the really hardcore opinions out, because I've noticed from research at CareerFoundry that it can be very frustrating when you're being told you need to do this one thing by a friend in the design field, and then someone else, a friend, says you need to do this other thing, and if they don't match up, it can cause a lot of internal chaos and depression. We've seen this, so this is normal. Also, everybody has portfolio anxiety. So just wanted to clear that you're not alone. You're hearing different things. I know it's a new field, UX design. So it's really good to do things like this because I'm giving you my perspective as a hiring manager. It's not necessarily CareerFoundry's perspective. We teach a certain perspective in the course, but I'm trying to give you mine because I think it'll enrich your mental model to have someone look at a portfolio for the first time and see their impression. So the thing about UX portfolios is they are more about the story than the visuals. And then what I mean by story, I mean you telling them your process and the context around what you did. So who was it for? What happened? And then how did it go? Like through the story and the context, you can tell what happened, because UX is a complicated thing. You're working with so many different stakeholders. You're kind of the in-between person. Sometimes you're leading the project. Sometimes you're facilitating workshops. Sometimes you're doing all kinds of different things. But the thing is, there are lots of people involved. So there's definitely going to be a story. And if there's no story because you sat in your room and you picked an app you liked and you redesigned it, that's okay as well. But try and also talk about why you did that. So give all the background that you can. For a UI portfolio, you might do something where you try and convey a mood. You try and show a lot of really polished visuals. But for UX design, the story is more important, right? And this is how I typically look at UX design portfolios. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about them. And I'm starting off with what I would say are the guidelines. These are, of course, from me, but these are the 7 things that I think you need to have so that it's a UX portfolio and not a UI portfolio or graphic design portfolio. Like these are specific to UX portfolios, right? So yeah, these are the things I think you should try and do. Tell a coherent story, present projects as case studies always that market your skills, include early iterations and process photos so we can see it go from like good to great. You need to make visuals support the story, not the story support the visuals. So start with that story, start with that outline, then add in the visuals when you're trying to make your portfolio piece. Use good information hierarchy, like bullet points, you know, the right size fonts for the right important information. Make your portfolio easy to navigate. When it's going to be found online, I would make sure that the UX of your portfolio is good. So have someone test it. And then show that you made something that was actually useful. So UX design portfolios, you must show something was useful. That's the only thing that you're trying to do at the end of the day. It's about the usability. So if the project you made ended up being useful for someone, that's really going to help. So there's a quick intro. I want to jump into the portfolios. You'll be able to access these tips later. So let's look at the work. Let's see. I have the first one here from Gentron. I'm going to share my screen just a sec. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Looks like you should be able to. All right. So I haven't looked at any of these, by the way. There was a certain amount of it was like hard to not look at them before, but I wanted you to watch me look through your portfolios for the first time, because you're going to get to see what a hiring manager might do if they're skimming through a list of portfolios they've been sent, if they're trying to hire a position. So, you know, in like UX design, you're constantly testing users to get their first impressions of your product. Well, now you can get my first impressions of your product, which is your portfolio. So Gentron sent in, I hope I'm saying your name right, Gentron sent her portfolio in. So we're on Behance. All right. So immediately I'm seeing Behance and I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. Maybe this person came from the more visual world, you know? And the thing with Behance that you got to understand is that you'll tend to be drawn to this area and also this area before you're drawn to the work. So something to keep in mind, that it does matter how you lay out your page and those sort of things. It is nice that I can see where Jen is from, so I can see immediately that she's in Berlin. And then she's got a link to our website as well. But I think she sent us this Behance, so we'll go through that instead of the website. But personally, I think for UX designers, I do prefer a website over a Behance. But Behance is a great way to do a first version. I know it can be really, really daunting to get a UX portfolio on to the web, because you not only have to do the portfolio pieces, but you have to design the project or the portfolio on the web. So it's sometimes a good idea to start with your Behance portfolio, get your projects in there so that you can start applying for jobs, or get the word out there for freelance, and then you can later, when you have time, add it to a website. But yeah, so Jen, I think my first impressions here, she's got some project views, and she's been a member since September 2019. I tend to look at these things first because I'm like, okay, how long have they been a UX designer? So maybe I mean, it gives me some information. I'm not sure if everyone would want to show that information to someone who's potentially going to be hiring them, but I can see she's been, UX designer since around September 20 is my idea. I'm looking at her projects. There's a lot of different styles of these thumbnails. I might prefer to see something more uniform, like maybe she would do a similar photo for all 4 of these, but I understand that this is a history of work. One thing that I thought when I first landed here was I see print design here. That's very big. It's bigger than almost anything else of the text on the page, which means my eye is drawn to it, even though it's a bit lower. So I'm immediately kind of wondering if Jen is a print designer. So it might be good to make it very clear. Like, see, she says UX/graphic design. I see now, okay, so she's doing UX and she maybe used to do graphic design. That makes more sense. But my first impression was, is this a print designer? Because this looks very print design. It's really nice, but I would assume her first project is her UX project. So maybe if you can make it some indication that this one's UX design and this one is print design, just to kind of make sure that that's even clearer that you're doing UX design as well as graphic design. And if you're really serious about getting a job in UX design, you want to eventually get to where you've just got UX design pieces on your portfolio. But while you're starting out, you can fill it out with older projects. But I really do like this. This is the first thing. It really sets it up for what it is. It's very branded. I love when people talk about their role, because it's very, very important. You never know if like they did it at school or if they did it with, just themselves and freelance. And also having the duration is really nice. It's good to know how long this took you, so I can kind of gauge how much time you had to work on this. Okay, it's good just going through the process. And I'm going through this a little bit fast maybe, but this is how I would normally go through it when I'm looking at a portfolio. I'm kind of skimming the visuals, seeing what's the process, looking for some artifacts. Yep, okay, so I'm seeing some journeys and some user personas, which I really like what she's done. You can tell she's created this custom graphic herself. It's really nice. The color palettes are great. Like, she spent the extra time to make these user personas, which is, I'm guessing, what they are. These user personas just a little bit better. And it looks like they're kind of a persona/journey, which, I mean, I don't immediately recognize this is exactly a persona or this is exactly a journey, but I like that she's kind of combining these things. Yeah, very clear. These markers make it very clear. Also, this is a great format because this is essentially like a presentation for Google Slides or PowerPoint or Keynote. So you can present this portfolio that way as well as online. I always think it's very clever when people use that format, that 1920 by 1080p look. Okay, yeah, some user flows. Yeah, these are very detailed. It's nice. Getting into the prototype. Great, yeah, so she's showing process here, showing how it went from the different stages and improved. And what a great thing about that is that I look at this and then I look at this, and this tends to look better now that I've seen the past, just because it's definitely an improvement, but it makes you think more highly of the finished work. Testing, okay. I like this format here, how you're talking about the conversation. I'm not sure I get the 70-30%. I'm sure this is the results. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, so the 2 things you tested and showing that. Yeah, that's a really clever way to show that. Yeah, the rainbow spreadsheet. So you're really into some deeper methodology. That's a really good. Final design, great. Show me the full thing. Not too long here. This is a good length. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the max number of screens you ever want to show at once, but it's good because you're not really doing that before. So yeah, I'm not overwhelmed. This looks good. I'm not looking at incredible detail here. I might go back and look at that more if I was thinking about hiring. But yes, retrospective, great. What didn't go well, could be improved. It's so important to talk about the results. This shows that you learn from every project and you get better. And I know sometimes if you're doing a student project, you're like, well, there are no results, but there are results. Like how did the project go? Was it approved? What was the feedback on it? You can get feedback on anything, even if it's not a paid project. So I love to see this. It makes me think that this person is going to get better and better and better at their career. I don't have a lot of. Usually when I do feedback, I think what's working, what's not working, and maybe some ideas. But what's working for me is the logical order of everything. I mean, things you could improve. Maybe you could make the whole thing as slick as these user journey things. I think those are really, really nice. I think if you could apply that level of polish to the whole thing, it would be super killer, next level. But as is, I think it's really working for you. Like this seems like a slightly different design, for instance, on this screen than here. This is a little bit cleaner. A few colors, but this has got some sort of texture thing on it. So these are kind of some visual design things you could maybe adjust a bit so that it all feels like it comes from the same presentation. Because I think you've probably worked on this over a long period of time and you haven't taken the time to like adapt everything to the same art direction, which is totally understandable, but that's only like a small thing you can improve. Let's look at another project really quickly. I'm not spending too much time on each of these, but okay. This is a different type of work. It almost looks like some experiential design. So still could possibly be some UX work, but okay, cool. Seeing some process. Yeah, I mean, I think the story is much clearer on this one. I can tell that you spent a lot of time. So yeah, I think I would just focus on getting the rest of your projects to the level of nifty nibbles. And you've already got 4 projects here, which is plain to me. And I always prefer quality over quantity. So I would take this as like, this is what Jen can do. And I'd feel good knowing that she could easily do the job of UX design. So I'm going to close this one. All right. That was the first one. The next one we have here is Frank Mo-Chica Design. Okay. Jen's messaging saying some of these are old. Yep, yeah, that makes sense. I kind of figured that you've kind of transitioned to UX design, so that's understandable. Maybe it helps to see that I'm kind of looking at all 4 as your best 4 works when maybe you kind of look at others as older and consider removing them or updating them visually or something so they kind of tell the same story. But I really like the nibble one. I think that's the kind of thing we're looking for here. Okay, I'm going to share this screen just a sec. Okay, Frank Mo-Chica. Journalist turned UX designer committed to solving complex problems with simple designs. So I love these intros because one of the things that helps, especially for HR people, is if as soon as they land on the website, they see something that says what that person is. So if I'm looking for UX designers, I land here, I see, oh, I am a journalist turned UX designer. Great. I know that you're the right person. I can probably from there forward the design manager. Job done, spent 5 seconds, and they didn't even go through your portfolio and perhaps get turned off by something. So like I think it's really nice to have this in the front. I know it can feel cheesy, and I know everyone does the same thing, like hi, howdy, whatever. But I think just somewhere above the fold on your landing page, say what you do, because for all I know, you do UI design, and you apply to the job as UX designer. It's good to say. And I like that you're saying I'm a journalist turned UX designer. Actually, someone who's done UX design for a while. I know that there's a lot of journalist methods we've stolen from y'all. So it makes a lot of sense to me to see someone go from journalist to UX designer. So I'm already excited. I'm like, okay, maybe this person can do lots of research. Maybe this person has some cool, interviewing methods that, like, maybe they know really good shorthand note-taking things. Like, there's so many things that you could learn from a journalist turned UX designer that I'm already excited, right? And all you did was say, I'm a journalist turned UX designer, instead of saying, I'm a UX designer. So this is part of this whole thing of telling the story. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about, the portfolio itself. I'm not even talking about a project. It's as simple as one line of text. And this is a really great thing to do. I'm going to take a look at this. Let's see. Okay, so I like that these are not in grid. They are more in the case study format already. Like I tend to be drawn more towards the layout of stacked, like this instead of the grid, because I see a lot of UI designers do the grid. So I sometimes assume that the grid is a UI design portfolio. So I do like the stacked look. Let's look at this first one. Yep, nice. Just a little thing here saying exactly what it is so that I know. So I see it's a UI case study. Okay, so I'm not expecting UX. That's good to know. Lead UI designer, good. Again, the role, timeline, you're seeing some things. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel with portfolios. Like this is only the second portfolio we're seeing a lot of the same formats. That's okay. That makes it easier for design managers and especially non-design people to go through your portfolio and know what to expect. But I love these overviews at the beginning. It's very important. Understanding the user, okay. Right, so start with the user. I like that. I also love the way they've done this layout here. It's really nice and clean. Okay, so that's the user persona. We're going through the whole flowchart here. Got some wireframes. Yep, see, process. We're going from the beginning to the polished end, and I can see some of the changes that happen in the meantime. If these all look the same in the same layout, I'm assuming that you didn't do testing and you didn't get feedback, because it definitely will change from the sketch to the final. So this is good that it's changed a bit. Yeah, I mean, maybe it could have changed more, like, is it, yeah, okay, it's a pretty simple page. Look, this one's changed quite a bit. This is a very complicated thing. I've tried to do these sort of preference things before, so it's a good one to include. I mean, this is pretty standard, right? So you might want to consider not including it if you run out of space. Search, like that they're using Balsamic. It's one of my favorite tools. Okay, mood board, which is interesting. This said this was a UI project, but it's cool that they're starting at the sketch, which feels more like a UX method. Yeah, so here's the branding. Yeah, I was kind of expecting that based on that header at the top. Okay. I'm going to skip a bit past the UI stuff, but it all looks good. Putting it in context, it's nice. Okay. Yep, pretty standard. Okay, and I like that they're including a clickable prototype. I don't know how often people do click these things, but it is helpful to say, like, I didn't just polish a bunch of visuals. It actually works. The flowchart that I showed you above, you can test it out and see it. So this is an interesting project because it says UI case study, but there's a lot of UX in here. Through, like, I would typically think of this as UX work. Not all sketches, but like early wireframes and early sketches tend to be more UX. Personas tend to be more UX. So there's a lot of stuff in here that feels very UX. You might want to consider changing the title to include UX in this, because I think you're doing UX in this project. Ink tank, okay, a tattoo social app, nice. It's a cool idea. UX, Be inspired, get connected. I like that you're kind of giving it some brand. Like, you've come up with this. I think this is a CareerFoundry project. So, like, you've come up with this from a brief, and I know this from what we do in our courses. So, but it doesn't give you be inspired, get connected. I know this. It doesn't give you a logo. So it's cool that you're kind of trying to give it some branding. You might want to make the logo a bit smaller, since it's just a simple illustration. It might look better if it was a bit smaller. Review. Yeah, I love seeing competitive analysis. It's so nice. This research survey. Yeah, we're definitely in UX territory here. I don't remember. Did you say this was a UX project? Yep, UX UI case study. Yep, cool. Yeah, you might call the other one that as well. I think you can do that. Okay, cool. Showing me some surveys. This is really nice. Yeah, this is what I was talking about with process. Like, it's really great if you show actual photos of what you did. As you're working on your projects, don't forget to take photos. You're going to use them later. You can go back and recreate them. Sure, you could recreate this, but it's just a pain. So I would just always be taking photos as you're making stuff that's going to be in your portfolio. Oh, these are great. I love this insights. Like, what did you learn when you did interviews? Like, okay, you did affinity mapping and you saw some buckets of things here, but it's cool to see actual written out, like things you learned. Challenges. Mm-hmm. Yep, these look really nice, really polished. Really nice photos. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I think without going into the specifics of what's in here, you're laying these out really, really nicely here. I can tell you've done a few versions. Yep, and you're doing a different journey map and a different user flow for each. That's really good. Give me the whole thing. Okay. Some of these, maybe some of this could be condensed. I'm not sure if I need full screen here, but it is really impressive that you've gone through all these things. And merge method, okay. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of details here. This is a huge amount of work. And you can see it progress from balsamic to like Illustrator type wireframes, doing usability testing. Okay, cool. So you've used some sort of digital tool like Mural or Miro. When I see this, it's like, oh, great, you're using the newest tools because I can tell this is a digital board. So that's interesting. The rainbow spreadsheet, yep, that's something we teach at CareerFoundry. It's always super impressive. Yeah, this is looking really good. It's getting really long at this point, but it's packed full of good information. And you're even getting into the UI stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think everything you have here is great. You could maybe spend a little time condensing some of this. Maybe you don't show every single thing. Maybe you get it to where it's a little bit more high quality for the time you have. Because I think a design manager will be super interested in all this work, but they may start to go fast like I did. They may start to scroll a little bit faster. So, but I think all the stuff you have here is good. It's going to be hard to cut things, I know, but if you can find ways to make things, make basically the whole portfolio a bit shorter, then that would be helpful. If you could do that while still showing the same information, that'd be great. But it looks really, really good. Okay, so I'm just looking at the first two projects. That's also something that can happen quite a bit. Maybe the person who's going through your portfolio has to go through about like 10 or so a day. So that's about the speed I would go through one. I think I'm spending like maybe 5 to 7 minutes on each. Might even spend less time, and that's just the reality of things. So that's why you have to have things clearly labeled so that you can see easily what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the next one. Casey Wu. Okay, let me share my screen. We'll go through this one, and then I'll check back in the public chat and see if there's any questions. Okay, hello, I'm Casey, with a nice little illustration. UX designer based in Toronto with a strong background in information architecture. Wonderful. I got you at a glance, and this is nice. Okay. I'm wondering if I like your illustration, but it feels very different than your logo. So you might want to consider the overall. There's like a lot of fonts and styles here, so you might want to either do more stuff like this or make your logo a bit more like this. That might help a bit, but that's kind of nitpicking. But yeah, I like that you describe what you do very quickly. Okay, vehicle registration. Let's check out this project. Okay, so we got some sort of hovering situation. Fancy. Okay. I can say I'm not super excited with what I'm seeing here. If you can find an image, a key visual that really draws me in. The thing with UX design is we've kind of our inspiration in the past with maybe UI design or graphic design or illustration, it was drawing inspiration from the artist. So you would showcase beautiful imagery. We're, as UX designers, often drawing inspiration from business. So the way you want to present your portfolio piece is the same way an agency or a company might want to present an app they want you to download. So you can, if you want to steal formats from non-design places, look at mobile app websites. Look at even phone, like iPhone product pages. Like the way they showcase the information on the product page of Apple.com or on the App Store from some of the top apps, that's going to give you a clue of like some tips and tricks you can use to make your portfolio piece look just as good as that. Because essentially, if you're a UX designer, you're selling an app or a service or something usually. And if you've done enough UI on it, it looks like it's the whole thing. So imagine you're trying to sell this app to the person who's looking at your portfolio piece. So that can be a nice little way to think about this that can encourage you to put, more enticing visuals at the top. Okay. So it's for the government. I can see why now it might look a little bit more drab. That tends to happen when we work for the government. I understand that. The thing about projects with the government is I can see that you'll do a lot of collaboration, and I know it's very difficult with that bureaucracy to get things done. So that's, the lack of visual polish because the government often doesn't want that kind of thing, but I can see that usability that is good, and you're an information architecture person, so this is a nice time to shine here. Cool. I love the GIF. That's really helpful. So see, this is where Casey has gone from. Essentially, they would have to show 5 screens here, but you make a GIF, and I can see all 5 screens, and it doesn't take up very much height. So, oh wait, I'm streaming from the wrong tab. I can see that now. Sorry, you couldn't see what I was looking at. Let me do that again. When I clicked Casey's project, it opened up a new tab, and you weren't shared that. So yeah, we were looking at this visual earlier when I went on a rant about being inspired by business and product pages. So this is a kind of a drab, screenshot at the top. But when I read that it's for the Ontario government, I sort of understand. I get it, this is a cool thing to add a lot of visual presence to a government project. But this is what I was talking about here, how the GIF here really shows like what's happening. Like you can see very quickly that there are 5 screens. These are the main ones. They're organized well. And with this GIF, I can go through it. So like all the visuals from the whole experience can be kind of shown right here at the beginning. Okay, the problem, always good to start with that. Why did you do this project in the first place? I love these design processes. When you can show me visually your design process, and I can tell it's not out of the box. This looks like your own process here. Like there's some things that, of course, you might have gotten from somewhere else, but it looks a bit like you've kind of made your own process. And that is a huge, huge advantage because I feel like you've tried a lot of processes and you landed on one that's your own personal. So even if you have it, it makes it seem like you've been doing this for a long time. These are research showing the key insight. Qualitative, quantitative, it's cool that you get that. Like one of the things I'm looking at when I'm looking at your portfolios is mentions of the right terminology, and do you understand that terminology? As simple as saying qualitative versus quantitative is a nice way to show that you understand some of the things involved in research. This highlight thing is interesting. It's pulling my eyes toward it. I'm not sure if it's good or a bad thing. As long as the things that are highlighted are really important. You might try just changing the color of the text instead of highlighting it like that. But I really like your icons. These are nice. I'm wondering if you would use a different icon though for fines. Like maybe that would be different. Personas. Cool, another GIF. I'm wondering why these have no color, but the rest does have color. You maybe could add color to the personas. Small thing, but got a lot of information in personas. I mean, I'm not really going to be able to read it with it flashing like this. I think that's okay, but maybe you could also have a way to download the personas to view. Okay, more GIFs. Nice. Yeah, with these, I'm not really going to look at too much detail. Just good to know that you have the proper terminology and you're using the right types of flowchart situations. So I can see you're using diamonds for decisions and that kind of thing. Makes me know you understand how to do these. Yep, cool. And it's in Miro. That's great that you link to the whole thing. If I was maybe inviting you into an interview, I would look at that before the interview, but probably wouldn't look at it beforehand. I would just kind of look at your project page. So it's good to know that it's there. Yeah, if you ever have too much on your portfolio page where it takes you more than 5 minutes to scroll through it, consider adding links out to things. See some prototyping. Looks like a really fancy balsamic Wireframe with color. It's interesting. I like that you're doing the mobile as well. I'm not sure if you did mobile and desktop when you prototyped, but if you did, that's super impressive that you take the time to do those things. I'm going to jump through since I'm spending a lot of time on this one. What I learned, perfect. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. You gave me the overview at the beginning, and then you gave me the overview at the end of what you learned. So yeah, if you're not doing results, what I learned, outcomes, something like that, at the end of your UX portfolio piece, you're missing out on an opportunity to talk about how much you learned from that piece and how much better you'll be next time. Yeah, it's an interesting piece. Like, I think it's to see a project from the government. Sort of, it's very, very much UI design. You know, it's not really getting into UI design too much. So that's totally fine. It's like all I would expect from a UX designer. Okay, nice. LGBTQ communities. This will be a very different client than the government looks like. You have some opportunity for some color, I bet. Okay, great. Same format. I do not mind that at all. Like, you've probably got feedback on this portfolio already. It's working for you. You can continue to use that format. I don't find it odd at all if everything is the same format, just different stuff inside of it. Okay, interesting. Some kind of storyboarding here. I'm still liking your icons. You're really taking some time to summarize what you learned. Like the way you've done this, it feels like you're really institutional sharing. Like this is the kind of information that I would see in my company Slack. Like, you know, what was Casey up to? Like, oh wow, Karen, this, like, that's super interesting. They're really doing a lot of great research. I'm glad they're sharing it. So I can tell that by making icons, by summarizing it, by highlighting it, you're trying to help them see what you learned, and you understand storytelling, and you understand how to teach people what happened. So that's super important here. So Casey's got some research experience. Yeah, so immediately I can tell Casey, I could put Casey on a project where it was completely undefined, and Casey would really be diligent about figuring out what's going on. I think Casey was the journalist, so that makes perfect sense. So nothing surprising about that. Great work. Oh, not okay. Information architecture, right? Yeah, great work, Casey. Okay. I'm going to take a second to check the messages coming in. Is Casey here? Oh, okay. So I got a question here from Paulina. I'm currently working on a portfolio that's significantly shorter. I'm guessing you mean shorter than the ones we've done. If I was an HR and go through portfolios that all look the same and filled with pics of post-its and charts and personas that nobody ever reads, I don't know. I had an idea of include, instead of the whole complete project, the most interesting parts of it. I included onboarding UX, rationale, choosing a font for a project, dashboard redesign, and some info about how I understand good practice about forms. What do you think about this idea? Yeah, I'm not opposed to reinventing the format. If you're doing it for the sake of getting attention, then this is good. Like, as I said before, like you need to think of this the way a company thinks of selling a product. So if the company is looking at their competitors and going, oh wow, they're all doing the same thing, we can do this thing better, and then it works and they sell more products. Same thing for you. You'll get that job over the other designers. So like it's just all about getting attention. But I think you should still not be worried about showing post-its, not be worried about showing portfolios, because an HR person, you know, Karen doesn't know anything about UX design. You know, she's been watching Twilight all night, and she looks at your portfolio next day and she's like, I don't know, it looks like design to me. What do they do? I can't do what they do anywhere. You know, so if you're doing what you are, then maybe Karen from HR can know exactly what's going on. So that's how I think about it. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. It sounded like you were wanting to do a lot of more visual design stuff. We were talking about art direction. So just don't forget to include your UX design process if it's a portfolio. As a UX portfolio review, I would think differently about UI portfolios, but for portfolio, it's all about process and context. Add those two things in any way you want, and it's going to be a win. Okay, I think they're answering some of these. Okay, I'm going to pull up the next one. So the next one I have is Paula. Share my screen. Okay, I'm gonna struggle with this name. Paula Giaglardi. Hopefully that's right. Okay, should be able to see my screen now. All right, first impressions. Great. I'm a UX UI designer who enjoys translating insights from users and products, solves problems, and improves people's lives. Nice. Is this? Okay. Interesting. That's what I thought it would do, but it could have done. Okay. Not opposed to this. This is an interesting way to do the about me. Maybe you could say something like, read more. Oh, no, you have it here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not sure if you need this. That was a bit distracting to me, but yeah, I like that you have this here. Something I see a lot of people do is they'll do, I'm a UI/UX designer. And it always makes me think they don't know the field very well, because almost always you say UX/UI designer because it's about the fact that you start with UX and then move to UI. So we usually write UX first, even though it's not alphabetical. So yeah, I'm liking that you did that the right way. Just a little tip to always write it UX/UI. Okay, nice hover states. All right. Yeah, the only thing with hover states, be careful. Like the rule with hover states is when I hover over something, don't obscure what's there. You want to show further information, show more information instead of less information. So seeing this makes me wonder, why is she showing less information when I hover, when I could already see the case study button, but then the button moves. So you might want to just either remove that hover state or show hem odor and then wait hover to show more details. But it's just something to consider. I like this kind of mosaic grid.
There's no Bluetooth device to disconnect.
I just activated Alexa. Ignore that for a second.
Using your Alexa app.
So this looks to me like it's a custom website, so that's cool. And it makes me a bit more impressed. It's hard to tell without looking at the code, but let's look at the first one. This little back button's interesting, but I love that it animates when I get near it. So I think that Paula's got some web development skills. What is an app that helps you connect your hospitals to use Mo-Chica? Okay, the business problem and the role and the approach and some custom little icons. Very nice. Design the app's aesthetics. Okay. Fix usability problems. Yep. Fix bugs. Yep. That's very UX. But oftentimes you'll get that, it's sometimes they'll say, yeah, we rebrand the app, but really they didn't fix the usability problems. So it's cool that that's honest and mentioned here. Okay. Right. So we're looking at the different roles, doctor, operators, external. Okay. This is very, I really like this. The different users. Okay. The process, there it is, clearly stated. Login, add case, access case. It's the process of using the app. That's interesting. I kind of thought it was the process of how you designed it, but that also is fine. It makes sense. So a lot of going on in these screens. I guess this is the same. I'm guessing this is the older version on top, and this is the newer version. I like the newer version in the bottom much better. I think that that one's very distracting, and it looks something from the 90s with this like green like line terminal thing. This is looking much fresher. Don't be afraid to use like a more subtle background still. I love these icons at the bottom, very clean, minimal. This background is still kind of like popping up a bit at me. Kind of hard to really parse what's happening in these screens a little bit. So you might want to try simplifying, maybe just showing one screen. Because I'm not really getting the labels for these, because the labels are on top of the screens. But I can't tell if that's a label in the screen or a portfolio. So maybe just simplify these a bit so that I can follow along. So you restructured the main nav. Card sorting, that's great. going through this pretty instead of reading it all. But I normally I'd probably read it all, and then I'd look at the visual. I'd be looking for certain keywords. I like that you worked in Figma. That's cool. So you worked with a developer in tandem at the same time. That could be tricky, but that's interesting. So like you got this bird's eye view here. Like this is useful in the sense that I can see, okay, wow, this is a big app. But I can't see into details. So I'm not sure. You might could show this differently. Maybe you kind of like gray it out, make it kind of the monochrome background, and push it backwards, and you can put some text on top of it and use it as a background, just so I can see. You got a lot of screens, but obviously I can't see what's in them. So the results, of course, measuring success and the prototype. Yep, that's a solid UX case study. A lot of detail. Yeah, I see a lot of screens. Yeah, I think I maybe do a little bit of work on the information hierarchy and making the vocals, the visuals a little more punchy so that I can see what's happening exactly. But and the story works. It makes me think, no, you can do the job. Solid portfolio. Okay, I'm going to close that one and go to another one. UX mine dot design. Wow, it rhymes and everything. Okay, let me share this. So we got ourselves a UX strategist / designer. Or at least that's what it says in the tab up here. And then here there on Tom, UX designer based near Philadelphia. Okay. So you might want to make sure that the top tab, which is in my Chrome, in my browser, it says like UX strategist / designer, and then below it says UX designer. So yeah, just maybe make up your mind which one you want to be called. Like I think both are acceptable for looking at user portfolios, but simplify to say UX designer. So from the user, just say okay. I think you're trying to go into the way you approach and think about design, but this could almost be a bullet points here, or maybe like a remote sentence. Like I feel like you're trying to. It's really hard when you're trying to describe it, the way you work in like a couple sentences, and you end up throwing a lot of words in to make sure you cover everything. But think about how you'd say this to someone who's maybe on the elevator when they ask you what you do. And you use so many buzzwords here. Maybe try and think about like a bit more punchy, more human way to describe what you do. Like I can see that you think through it, and I can see that you obviously care about things like finding the root problem, which is very important. Yeah, I think maybe you could wait a bit before you go into some of this stuff. Maybe it's more in the me, or just kind of shorten it here, so I can dive into the work. Okay. Maybe you could put some of that stuff down here. But I do like that you've got this quick resume. It's very clever. It's cool. Yeah, so you kind of condensed your resume to be this one little area, which is nice. Look at the print. Okay, virality. I would expect maybe some sort of key visual here at the top, that bit, and then this travel app just kind of sit by itself. And I'm not sure if it's like, it's a different color and font than the others. So maybe you could remove that or put it in a text or something. And you could put like sort of key visual here at the top. Okay, yeah, you've got a way with words. It's like you're saying where to go, what to do, and when. Yeah. Yeah, with all of this, just see if you reduce a sentence. Like make it very punchy. Like I think this is probably the max paragraph you want to put for anything. Like, do you put photo credit? It's important. It makes me know you respect other designers. You could maybe do a little bit more to separate the question from the answer because it's not immediately obvious. Like do a little bit of work with your information hierarchy. Like maybe these are the answers in bullet points, or it says Q and it says A with a colon. Okay. This looks like a link to me, so you might want to make it not bold because I think you were doing. Okay, I thought some of these were links here, but I guess they're not. Something to keep in mind, like if you show colors, colored text that are bold, I usually think they're links, maybe they're not, but it makes me wonder, like, did you have someone look at your portfolio piece? They might have also thought that, so then you can kind of get that feedback. But I think if it's highlighted or if it's not bold, it looks a little bit better. You can tell that it's just a highlight. But you're also doing uppercase. So yeah, I see you're trying to like break up the text. Okay, nice. Yeah, see that this summarizes things much better than a paragraph, right? So this is good. Okay, so we've got our user persona, flipboard screenshot. What's going on here? Ah, nice. Okay, so you got a little demo. That's great. I like that it's on YouTube as well. It's cool. Spend some time. You don't mind if you upload it. You're proud of it. That's good. Okay. Yeah, these are always nice. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah. Okay. So that's tracking from here. I think a lot of times it's better if you put like you've done here, but you can kind of connect the lines to the actual screen because they're kind of stopping them. So I'm assuming the next button takes you here, but it's a little confusing as to how these screen into each other. So you want to make that a little bit clearer. Maybe you can make them a bit smaller so they're easier to work with. Okay, some responses and interviews. Okay, use case. Yeah, and then maybe at the end you could add the outcomes, results, some sort of feedback you got. How did you build it? Did it work? Did it make money? Was it just for a friend? Did they use it? Now I'm kind of curious what happened. Yeah, it's cool that you put your email here because I know most people, they don't like to do about me forms. They're just going to send an email to you. So it's cool that you have that. You might make it a little bit smaller. It seems a bit big here. Overall, good work. Okay. I'm going to come back to the chat. So a quick question here. How many projects would be enough to put on portfolio? So we did research in Q4 to look at a lot of CareerFoundry students to see what they felt they were comfortable with. And most of them said 3 pieces on their portfolio, and then they would feel good. If they had less than 3 pieces in their portfolio, they'd have portfolio anxiety. So that's something to keep in mind. I think personally that you have one really good quality case study. I know you can do the job. The rest could be filler. You could maybe do one full-fledged case study, and the other 2 could be maybe more specific things like persona project, information architecture project, and then you have your fully fledged app, and then you got 3 projects. Like I tend to look at the first 2 and often don't even look at the third. So it's just there, maybe some people when they're hiring are going to take more time. It depends. We usually have a lot of applicants. We have over 70 applicants. I don't have time to look at every single portfolio project piece. So I would say 2 to 3, try and get 2 to 3. Make sure that the first one is a really good case study. So that's kind of the way I'd approach it. I'm going to look through one more. Hang on a sec. This one came from LinkedIn. From Roar. Okay, so he sent me this. Hopefully this is where he wanted me to start. So it's right jumping in on, let me share my screen just a second. Okay. So yeah, we're in Behance. We're into a profile, into a portfolio piece itself. I can see that this is for CF UX Emergence, who's a CareerFoundry student. Cool. March 2020, responsive web app, UI design. Like some nice header stuff. You don't get as much in Behance. You kind of have to put it all in the image then, so we'll have something there. You could even make this a bit bigger, make it sort of like this is the landing page, this is the beginning. Because I think when I landed, I wasn't quite sure if it was the beginning. I thought we had jumped in halfway through. So if you have maybe a bit more of a header title, these are pretty small. I like that they're here, but they could be a bit bigger. And I don't know if I would start with wireframes. You might start with maybe the final picture would be a little better. Well, the case study, okay. Okay, so kind of describing your, it's like a final project kind of. Okay, yeah. This is nice because I get that we're not doing maybe the normal thing of jumping in and pretending like you're selling the product. You're saying, this is my student project. This is really, really, really nice. I love diagrams. I love when you talk about the different things you've done. This makes me go, oh, they can do those things. Oh, we do those things. They can do a job. These are really, really nice. I recommend putting these in every single portfolio piece. And ideally, they're different for each project if you follow different processes, but you can put the same one in, and you can basically organize your whole portfolio piece as each section be one of these things. My battery's running out on the computer. Okay. So getting into the problem space first, I think it's good to start with the problem because it's just like, why did you do this project? So that's good. Lots of great information hierarchy here, you know, bullet points, little.
Your screen sharing has been disconnected.
Just disconnect. Hang on a sec. Okay, I think I'm back. Right. So I think I had some internet problems. Right. So talking about the problem space, high level, talking about the solution, high level. I love to see the competition here. I know it can be a pain to go through competitive analysis, but this, you know, strength, weaknesses, you know, opportunities, like these things are really great to know about competitors. When I see this, I think it's cool. I think also non-designers like these because this is the sort of marketing business thing that's really great to put. Yeah, okay, great. So you've done a lot of work here, and I love these little call outs to say qualitative, evaluative. Yep, your user components, they look great. Everything is laid out well. Yep, you're trying a lot of interesting things in the layout like that. Like this call out thing. I'm mapping this, I'm kind of following this like snaky thing. It's almost a bit more distracting than it needs to be. You've got a lot of process here. Okay, so yeah, this snaky thing is actually the thing we're following here. Okay. I like the idea of using this yellow ribbon to kind of walk through the project. You might make it a little simpler because it's so all over the place that I wasn't sure to follow it, you know. But I love the idea. I think you should definitely keep this idea. Just make it a little easier to follow. I guess it's kind of like the Mario map, which is very clever. So I'm liking that. And you've got a video here. Okay, we've got a demo, which is always
next. This is Linda, a super energetic mom of 2 teenagers who also happens to have an eye for beautiful things.
Nice. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I can already tell there's beautiful storytelling, and this person can do video animations, this person can do voiceovers, this person put music in their portfolio piece, which is just next level. I think this is a person who can do everything, right? They can do it all. They can do UX design, they can jump in and like work on anything. It would be an instant, yeah, we want to hire this person. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I think that's all the time that we have for looking at portfolios. I really enjoy that you've been brave enough to send me your portfolio. I know that can be really, really terrifying to send your portfolio to be reviewed publicly. It might feel like a public execution or something. But I mean, every portfolio I looked at was hireable. You know, there was a lot of great work put into them. There's a couple of things I can go through here at the end just to talk about next level. So what I went through before was these are the guidelines, these are the table stakes, right? So you need to be doing these 7 things. But if we want to go a bit further, an HR person looks at this as well. So your portfolio isn't just being looked at by designers and design managers. It's being looked at by Karen from HR. It's being looked at by, you know, anyone who's involved in the hiring, who's in the product team, for instance, or, you know, marketers of these things when they're going to be doing the hiring. So keep that in mind. Don't just write stuff for design managers. Write stuff for people who aren't designers. So the things they're looking for is work experience. They'll look at your recent jobs. They'll look at your resume. They'll check that it matches up. Did you say you're a UX designer? Put that in space. That's going to be for those HR because design managers can figure out whether you're UX or not. You know, HR people care about professional shots, and they look at social media links and post something that is good for the HR of the company, they're not hire you. So consider that, right? If you have social media that you don't want an HR person to see, don't put it in your portfolio. I'd recommend LinkedIn and maybe Instagram. I think we're back. Anyway, these are the things that HR people will want to see. And they'll be pretty much the same for any candidate. And then I put down a couple of things that I look for. As you might have been able to tell, I look for your UX process, like at a high level, what sort of process do you follow from beginning to end of the project? This is super important. Juniors are going to have a harder time having their own process, but I think you can look up processes all over the internet, UX design processes. So follow one of those and show that you followed it. Make sure you use the terminology correct and you have the whole useful mindset rather than the aesthetics. You're thinking about the usability. Make sure the narrative makes sense. If other people involved in the project, call those people out. I mean, UX design is almost never done in a vacuum. So I want to know, what teams did you collaborate with? What users did you talk to? Did you work with other designers? What did the ultimate end users think of the thing? So those are the other characters. So you're not just talking about yourself, you're talking about the other characters. Make sure that you can show you're interested in design. Maybe you're posting things you've done on the side. Maybe you're writing blog posts. This is a bonus, but I really love it. Make sure you have a fresh UX methodology. And then that means maybe using newer methods like jobs to be done. That impresses me for sure. You don't have to, but it definitely impresses me. And then I'm looking for quality over quantity. I don't have time to look at the whole portfolio anyway, so you might as well make the first one your most high quality piece. That's all I had for today. The real thing about portfolios that I want to leave with you is that design portfolios, they are not you. The talents and skills and abilities you have as a designer aren't always reflected in your portfolio, and that's okay. Design portfolios are meant to get you interviews. They're meant to get you work if you're a freelancer. They're meant to show interest in working with you, right? So that's the most important thing. So keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself with your portfolio. Follow the guidelines I've given you. Have some fun with it. Show some personality. Be professional. But at the end of the day, you just need to get that interview, and a portfolio will help you do it. And it's sad that we have to spend so much time working on UX portfolio when we're not UI designers, but it's a really fun thing to do. And once you do it, you can be very proud of it. You can say, this is what I do. It's an opportunity to immediately show people your value. So keep that in mind. Just use it to get to the interview, and that's it. So if there's nothing else, that's the end of the workshop. Stay tuned. CareerFoundry is going to be doing a lot of these webinars. So yeah, you can connect with them on Instagram or on the website, CareerFoundry.com. And yeah, it's been really great looking at your portfolios today. Thanks so much for letting me go through them.